Harassed by Carrington, finds Boston. Clark gets hit in the face by Carrington and is down. Caitlin Clark is down. No call as Connecticut takes advantage.
Hatred and jealousy of WNBA players towards Caitlin Clark has been clear due to the amount of cheap shots and flagrant fouls she's received so far.
People are calling for this WNBA player to be suspended after she intentionally pokes Caitlin Clark in the eye. You can see here, she misses the ball with an open palm and then hones it into this little sharp, pointy hand and jabs.
Opponents have been overly aggressive. The referees have ignored clear fouls, and some WNBA players seem determined to make things tough for her. This has led to a growing controversy about whether Caitlin is being treated unfairly and if the league is doing enough to protect its players.
Clark, the hesitation, working inside the reverse. Owen took a big hit there on Jackie Young, and the foul does come, and for the second time.
Throughout the season, Caitlin Clark has been on the receiving end of several dangerous plays. One of the most shocking incidents happened when Jackie Young from the Las Vegas Aces collided with her in a way that looked more like a football tackle than a basketball move. Caitlin wasn't even directly involved in the play, yet Young knocked her down and then fell on top of her.
You know, just doing the right thing, just making sure she's good, and yeah, just checking on her, give her a little tap, you know, make sure she's cool, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, we just want to play this game, have fun.
The hit was so hard that Caitlin was clearly in pain, yet the referees didn't call anything.
One, Sammy Whitcomb with 8 seconds left. Goes around to Gumake, drives baseline, and shot rejected by Ezzy Magmagor. Second opportunity is up and in by Nalissa Smith.
That wasn't an isolated event. In another game against the Seattle Storm, Ezzy Magmagor went for a block but ended up hitting Caitlin so hard on the head that it hurt just to watch. The impact was so obvious that fans immediately called for a flagrant foul, but once again, the referees let it go. The Storm even used the image of this hit in a promotional post to promote Magmagor as a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, which sparked backlash from fans who saw it as disrespectful. Caitlin has also been targeted in verbal altercations.
We might need to update the graphic now. And some extracurricular as Clark's knocked down a couple.
During a game against the Seattle Storm, Victoria Vivians, a bench player, got into a heated exchange with Caitlin while running up the court. The two were face-to-face, and Vivians seemed to be trying to escalate the situation. Luckily, Caitlin's teammate Aaliyah Boston stepped in and separated them before it got worse. The referees called a double technical foul, but it was clear that Vivians was the one trying to provoke Caitlin. This kind of treatment has raised serious questions. Why is Caitlin Clark facing such rough play? Why are referees allowing it? And is there a bigger issue at play?
For standing up for herself, I commented that I couldn't tell from the angle what happened. I said that, Caitlin had just hit a 3. There was no foul.
One theory is that some WNBA players are not happy with the attention Caitlin has been getting. She has brought millions of new fans to the league, boosted ticket sales, and helped increase viewership. But some players might feel like she is getting all the credit while they have been working hard for years. This could explain why some of them seem determined to make her experience in the league as tough as possible. Another possible reason is that referees are hesitant to give her calls because they don't want to be seen as favoring her. In basketball, star players often get special treatment, but in Caitlin's case, it seems like the opposite is happening. Instead of protecting her from excessive contact, officials are letting things slide, which is putting her at risk of serious injury. If this continues, it could have serious consequences for Caitlin and the WNBA as a whole. She is one of the biggest reasons why the league has gained so much attention recently. If she gets injured or feels like she is being treated unfairly, she might decide to leave. That would be a huge loss, not just for the Indiana Fever, but for the entire WNBA.
I need to call you the female version of Steph Curry, or do I need to call Steph Curry the male version of Caitlin Clark? I mean, which one is it?
Caitlin has handled everything with professionalism so far. Despite being pushed, tripped, hit on the head, and knocked down multiple times, she has kept her focus and refused to complain. But the real question is, how long can she keep doing this? How much more can she take before it affects her performance or her passion for the game? The WNBA has to step up before things get worse. The league needs to ensure that referees are calling the game fairly and protecting players from unnecessary roughness. Basketball is a physical sport, but there is a difference between tough defense and reckless play. If Caitlin Clark continues to be targeted without any consequences, it sends a bad message not just to her, but to all players in the league. The situation also raises concerns about how new stars are welcomed into the WNBA. Rookie hazing Overreacting is common in sports, but what Caitlin is experiencing goes beyond that. She is being treated with hostility by some players who seem more focused on proving a point than playing basketball. If this is how the league treats its biggest new star, what does that say about its ability to grow and attract talent? People have already started calling out the WNBA for its handling of the situation. Many have pointed out that if these kinds of fouls happened to any other player, they would have been called immediately. The fact that Caitlin is getting different treatment is hard to ignore. Some have even suggested that there might be an unspoken effort to make her earn her place in the league by going through extra hardship.
They were up in the first quarter. The Fever getting their first win last night in Los Angeles. That's got to be pretty tough to be patient with herself and with her team.
And that's not a virtue of Caitlin's,
One of the first major incidents happened against the Las Vegas Aces when Alicia Clark struck Caitlin on the head while attempting to block her shot. Alicia got a piece of the ball, but then followed through directly into Caitlin's face. Instead of accepting the foul, she protested the call as if it never happened. This kind of reaction from an experienced player was shocking because the contact was undeniable. Whether intentional or not, she should have acknowledged the foul and checked on Caitlin. But instead, she set a poor example by acting as if nothing was wrong. Another moment that stood out was Caitlin's matchup against the Chicago Sky. Chicago played Indiana 4 times in the season, and in each game, they committed a flagrant foul on Caitlin. That means they averaged 1 flagrant foul per game against her, which is an extremely high number. These fouls weren't just hard basketball plays. They were aggressive and, in many cases, unnecessary.
Mabry doubled off to Carter. Her jumper is good. Kennedy Carter now with 12 points off the bench. And then the lay from Boston as the...
One of the worst incidents involved Chicago's Kennedy Carter. During a dead ball situation, when the ball wasn't even in play, Carter walked up to Caitlin and shoved her with her shoulder, sending her to the ground. This wasn't a basketball move. It was an act of pure aggression meant to send a message. The referees reviewed the play, but surprisingly, they still allowed Carter to continue playing. This decision shocked many fans and analysts because such an obvious cheap shot should have resulted in an ejection.
Indiana Fever in the Chicago Sky here from Wintrust Arena. The Fever really stretched out this one in the second half as we look at Diamond DeShields and Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin's treatment didn't stop there. Later in the season, Diamond DeShields of the Chicago Sky committed another reckless foul on Caitlin. During a transition play, DeShields ran straight into Caitlin, leading with her shoulder and making unnecessary contact. This happened in the 4th quarter of a game where Indiana was already leading by 25 points. At that point, there was no strategic reason for such aggressive play. It was clearly an act of frustration from DeShields, whose team was getting outplayed. Not all of the fouls against Caitlin were personal attacks, but the pattern of excessive contact was clear. Michaela Onyenwer of the Chicago Sky committed another flagrant foul while trying to contest one of Caitlin's 3-pointers. She closed out too late, jumped forward, and ended up crashing into Caitlin. This play was dangerous because it violated the rule that protects shooters from defenders invading their landing space. These types of fouls can lead to serious ankle or knee injuries. Yet Caitlin has had to deal with them multiple times in her first season. It's no surprise that Caitlin Clark has been a target. She is one of the most hyped rookies in WNBA history, and some players seem determined to make her life difficult. The rivalry between Caitlin and Angel Reese has been one of the biggest stories of the season, and it's clear that their matchups have an extra level of intensity. But when competition crosses the line into outright dangerous play, it becomes a problem for the league as a whole. One of the biggest questions is why the referees are allowing this to continue. In most leagues, star players receive extra protection because their presence is valuable to the sport. But in Caitlin's case, it seems like the opposite is happening. She has been subjected to numerous hard fouls, yet the officials have often looked the other way or failed to make the right calls.
People love Caitlin Clark besides her skills.
She can shoot threes from logo.
You never seen that before. That's my point. Steph Curry, a little kid. Like Steph Curry.
One of the biggest rivalries in the league right now is between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Their history goes back to college, where they competed against each other in major games. That rivalry only grew stronger when both entered the WNBA and battled for the Rookie of the Year award. Reese has embraced the role of Clark's main rival, often making it clear that she believes she is the better player. While this is common in sports, some moments have crossed the line.
Angel Reese, the WNBA superstar, and Dejanay Carrington, the woman that clawed out Caitlin Clark's eyes, they have a sit-down on...
Reese has been involved in multiple flagrant fouls against Clark. One of the most talked about incidents was when she hit Clark in the head instead of going for a clean block. The hit was unnecessary because Reese was already too late to contest the shot. This made many people wonder if it was a mistake or an intentional move to send a message. Either way, such reckless plays put players at risk of serious injury. Clark has also been the victim of excessive screens. In one game, Alyssa Thomas of the Connecticut Sun set a screen that looked more like a football tackle. She moved into Clark's path and knocked her to the ground with force. It was a clear offensive foul, yet the referees failed to call it. Another controversial moment happened in the playoffs when Clark ended up with a black eye after being hit by Dejanay Carrington.
WNBA Twitter is currently crashing out over Black Eye Gate. I'm sure we've seen by now this play where Dejanay Carrington pokes Caitlin Clark in the eye.
Clark was shooting a three-pointer when Carrington's hand struck her face. The contact seemed accidental, but some fans questioned whether it was just another example of Clark being targeted. The fact that no foul was called added to the frustration. Many believe Clark is not getting the protection from referees that other players do.
I think Angel should be criticized at all. No matter which way it goes, she should never be criticized for what she did. I think everybody knew there was going to be a little trash talk in the entire tournament. It's not just me and Angel, so like I said, I'm a big fan of hers.
Despite all this, Clark continues to play the same way. She never reacts aggressively or complains to the media. Instead, she keeps her focus on the game, showing resilience and determination. However, the WNBA needs to address this issue before it leads to a serious injury. If players are allowed to take cheap shots without consequences, it sets a bad example for the league. Some believe that this is happening because other WNBA players don't like the attention Caitlin is getting. She has brought millions of new fans to the league, boosted TV ratings, and helped sell out arenas. But some of the league's veterans may feel like she is getting too much credit while they have been working hard for years without the same level of recognition. This could explain why some players are playing extra aggressively against her, trying to prove a point. Others think that referees are hesitant to give Caitlin too many calls because they don't want to be accused of favoring her. In basketball, it's common for star players to get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to foul calls. But instead of receiving that treatment, Caitlin seems to be getting the opposite. Officials appear to be letting defenders get away with excessive contact, possibly to avoid any accusations of bias. The WNBA needs to take action before it's too late. The league should ensure that referees are calling the game fairly and protecting all players from unnecessary physical play. Basketball is a tough sport, and contact is a natural part of the game. But there is a difference between playing tough defense and intentionally trying to send a message through hard fouls. Now, don't forget to comment down your thoughts on this. And while you're down there, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future updates.